Hi there, I am
Hi.
the CRM Ninja, and on today's episode of the Oops Factor, I have the one, the only Julian Sharp. Welcome to the show, Julian.
Hello, welcome.
Hopefully that wasn't too much of a build-up for you.
Nah.
I'm sure
I
you've been
think a lot of
introduced
people
with a
know me
lot
anyway.
worse. So before we get into whatever you're going to share with us for the Oops Factor, I wanted to ask you about one of your hobbies. And the reason that my head is sort of fading in and out of a circuit board is I understand that you're into IoT devices, as in the Internet of Things. Can
Mhm.
you tell us how you got into it and what sort of thing you do in there? Because I think it's really interesting.
I think if I go back to my childhood, I was actually really into electronics.
Okay.
But at that time, it was your soldering iron. And for instance, I built my own car alarm for my first car and a
You
Mini.
built your own car alarm.
Yeah.
Did it come in a box with instructions, or you literally got different components together and actually built it?
And I even etched the circuit board. Yeah, with
Wow.
chemicals and things like that. Yeah, you get arrested for doing this now, buying this stuff on the internet because they think you're up to no good and you're producing dangerous chemicals with nitric acid. Yeah, so yeah, I was always interested in electronics. Very early days, again, the days computers, that sort of overlap. But again, I built my own. I built a joystick for my little Sinclair computer. So I've still got that actually. I've still got it. This metal thing with a little pot and the resistor. So I was always interested in electronics from a
Wow.
young age and sort of got away with it. And then my interest in IoT really got triggered by Dynamics 365 field service and
Ah,
into I was already a bit into Azure anyway, but when I started getting to teach, when that field service first came around, they started hooking it into Azure IoT. I ended up doing some training, and I actually worked with one
fancy
of the
that. Training.
yeah. I actually got involved with one of the large IoT companies, Arrow, who are the
Okay.
big IoT distributors in the world. I did some training for them, and I was training their IoT people in Dynamics. So I was actually coming more
Wow.
from the IoT side, and it's great because you get to play with all the kit. Whether it's Raspberry Pis or lots of little sensors. I've got boxes of stuff. And again, people like Ben Volmer who give out little IoT dev kits, little MX chip
Yes.
boards we've got. I mean, they're doing that sort of stuff. It allows people to touch things. And for a while, I did quite a lot of community talks. I'd do how to do power apps. I'd write how to write a power app to control IoT devices. I remember doing one session where I had some devices dotted around the room and actually built a power app to control them through Azure.
Amazing.
It live in my talk and had things going off and people pressing buttons. And I just think it brings it to life and shows what it's about. Because once you start getting the interaction with the real world, that's where, and you can see, okay, yeah, that can trigger something that people need to be able to go do something with it. Unfortunately, IoT, we're also quite fortunate in my local area, Nottingham. We've got a really good IoT group led by another MVP, Pete
Okay.
Code or Pete Gallagher. I don't know if you know Pete.
I
He
know
leads a
Pete.
really good group. He has regular meetings, and so we have a really good community in that way. I don't go as often as I could. I used to when we went in person as often as I
Right.
could, but I haven't really done it virtually. So yeah, just that ability to go and start hooking up devices and doing it. And just one of the reasons I'm taking time off. I actually want to do some more. I really haven't had time. I bought some stuff over a year ago and I've not touched it. It's still boxed up. I want to do more.
Wow, the joys of it. So, what's the most ambitious IoT project that you have done to date?
I haven't really done a real one. The problem with a lot of IoT, it never really gets past the proof of concept phase
Why is
because
that?
it's costly, it's
Oh,
difficult.
okay.
When you start getting it at scale, um, it becomes quite difficult to justify the cost and the investment. There's a lot of skills required. It's still quite specialist. There's a really good, I talk about exams, it's a really good exam. The AZ220, Azure IoT Developers, is really actually a great course and exam. I've actually just done my annual renewal on it. It's all about digital twins and it's really interesting. But you've got all the hardware. It's still really still at the standards. It's still very early days, I think, in IoT. and a lot of people still haven't got on to do it. So personally, my main stuff is little sensors and ability to sense. I did one trying to watch the cats going in and out the toilet because we had a sick cat, and we want to know how often because one issue is if a cat's sick, it goes to the toilet quite a lot, but doesn't actually do anything. So we actually want that measure, because normally they go once or twice a day. Cat, they're quite simple creatures, but if they go like 7, 8, simple 9, 10 times a day, simple but evil. If they're going a lot, so yeah, I rigged up a little. I had some sensors to hook up just to do that. That's probably the most complex thing I've done, because it was trying to figure out, and I really wanted to then get cameras in and then use AI to recognize the cat, but I never. So we've got more than one cat to recognize which cats were going in and out, but I never got that far. I've got the bits and bobs, just haven't actually built it.
I can see you telling your cats to hold still while you take pictures of them for the AR recognition model.
Well, I've actually written a book, AI 900 exam prep book for Microsoft Press.
Yeah.
And if you bought my book, on page 87, you'll see a picture of my cats. They're actually sat on the side. They're actually immortalized in print, my cats.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice. So moving on from IoT and cats to the Oops Factor, what do you have to share with us?
Oh, I've been in IT for 30 plus years.
Okay.
I mean, I've had a number of different jobs. So I'll tell you a few stories. Let's do this one. This is my first job at university is for working with one of the big 4 consulting companies.
Okay.
Accounting companies. And so I worked for them for about 5 years. And I was working on a number of different projects. And at one point I was getting very annoyed with them, because I was not being treated very well. And the client wasn't, as usual, wasn't very helpful. And I remember I wrote a document which was for internal viewing only. And it really was pretty scathing. It laid out the history of what had gone on this client. There were several projects. There was and this usual political stuff rather than getting in the way of actual delivery. Right. And I think probably my biggest thing is I don't really pay attention to politics. I don't really care.
You and I are quite similar in that. So
yeah, yes. I just care about delivery. I care about creating great user experiences, creating real good solutions.
We want to get things done.
Yeah, and I really don't want to play games. It's not really what I'm about. And I just on a little aside, I did one of these. We went on with these consulting weekends where you went training. You go do this like Belbin team type test. I don't know if you've ever done one of those.
I've heard about them.
Where you get classified, you answer questions, you get scored between 0 and 20 on a number of different factors, and they go around the score. What do you get? And I got 19 as a plant. If you know what plant is, it's somebody's lots of ideas, but very dangerous. That's me. And I got like 0 for chairman. I don't work well with others. Yeah, I got 0. I said, yeah, never had anybody get zeros before, they said, and I had like 3 zeros. So yeah, one of the things we would, I wrote a document which is, there's actually 2 parts to this. One, we were being transferred within the client to another part of their business. We were actually being sent up to Newcastle.
Okay.
They moved the projects up to Newcastle underneath the new client within the department, public sector. And we all had to go up there. We all had to go up there and do a presentation on the project and what was happening with it on projects. And it was a week before go live for my project, and I really did not want to go, so I'd done no preparation for it. They said, so I can't go, look, we're a week before go live, I've got all this stuff to finish. No, you've got to go. I've got to like drive 200 miles for an hour meeting. And I went, okay, I'll go then. I did no preparation, and it came to my turn. I just stood up and I just let them have it. Yeah. That was very much an oops. And they were staring at me, trying to kick me under the table to tell me to shut up. And of course, me being oblivious, I was, yeah, we want to know what you, I thought you wanted the truth.
What was the outcome from that, dare I ask?
I got a bit of a bollocking. Actually, pretty much got away with that one. The actual person I went to work for, the actual client actually was okay with it. It was my managers who were not happy.
I can imagine, yes.
Because really, I mean, I only knew, I think I actually got on quite well with him afterwards, the client. He very much is an old school. He actually did want to be told what was going on, so he didn't mind. But yeah, I really wasn't politically aware. But to be honest, I was coming to the end of my tenure there. Yeah, and I also wrote this document which was for internal use only, and unfortunately, or I still believe it was deliberately, it got left out on a desk overnight and got picked up by the client.
Right.
But yeah, so basically I was told to go and apologize to the client, and I went to Sam and I didn't. That's when he said, I said, is there anything in there that's not true? And he goes, no. So we go, and it just reinforced my view that it was the right time to be, because at that point they were trying to push people to be project managers and be not technical. And this was in like the early 90s. And I could see that technology was going to be so much more important. Oh, yeah, you needed those skills. But I didn't want to get in a situation where I saw so many people who just, they come so far away from the technology, they can't make good decisions. I think I've always been a technologist at heart. So I didn't want to go down that path, even though I could do it. So yeah, it's just sort of reinforced. So that's probably, oops. Career, I think the term was career limiting move.
I guess that's a bit better than career suicide.
Well, I don't know what it was. If I'd stayed, I don't know. They seem to like me, but I don't think at that point, I know people who stayed and they did very well, but I don't think it would have been me. I didn't like the way basically I wanted to go down technology route, and I left to join a technology company.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah, which interestingly, the day I joined, the US parent put a headcount freeze in, which was actually quite interesting because then they couldn't employ me, so they took me on as a contractor, which was actually better. I made more money. Because then when they actually went to sack all the UK employees, they actually couldn't sack me because I was on a contract. 2 years later.
See, blessing in disguise there.
Blessing in disguise, yeah. Other ones are probably the worst technical one was I was on a Unix box and did an RM minus R star, and I was in the root. So if you know what RM minus R star,
why were you logged in as root, dare I ask?
Because I was adminning the system. We were tidying up the this is very early days of Unix. I was actually the admin sorting stuff out. I was trying to clear down a whole set of folders, and I was just in the wrong place. Right. Control C, very quickly, I recovered it. I did manage to recover. I realized very quickly I didn't recover because I had a backup.
I was about to ask about backups. Backups obviously very vital.
Yeah, I knew what I was doing in that respect. I wasn't stupid, but yeah, I was. Yeah, I do. Yeah, that was fun.
Backups always
that was a squeaky bum moment.
I can imagine. Backups always amuse me in some ways, because if I think of Dataverse, right, so the platform, you can back up an environment within about 3 seconds.
Yeah,
because it's continually backing up essentially, and when you create a backup manually, it does that. Doesn't matter how much data is in that environment. Restoring it, on the other hand.
Have you ever restored?
Sorry?
Have you ever restored a Dataverse environment? I haven't.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I haven't. I did it
so I have,
when it first came out. I practiced it, but I never actually had to do it for real.
We've had to do it, and I can tell you it does not take 3 seconds to do.
All right. Well, the problem is, if you've got things like workflow going off and emails coming in and out, how do you set those back as well? And you can't. You can never get back to a nice clean state.
That's
Uh,
correct. Assuming you have emails going in and out of the system.
yeah.
Yes.
Or even if you've got people doing Outlook and tracking them in, you're going to get something. You got workflow that's ready. Because the trouble is when you restore stuff, well, it depends if it's workflow or Power Automate. Because if it's out in Power Automate, it's outside. What was nice about doing classic workflow is inside you restore the database, you get the workflow gets restored to exactly the same point. Whereas if it's outside, like Power Automate it is, you've got to roll that back and trigger that back.
Well, you say that.
Depends.
But Power Automates are kept within the environment if it's solutioned.
Yeah,
So,
but the triggering of them, maybe, if they're getting triggered from outside.
if they're getting triggered from outside, yes, that is true. But if it's within the environment itself.
Yeah, it was nice when CRM was just this nice self-contained environment. Everything happened within it. We're not in that world now. So
you're yearning back to those on-prem days with lots of blinking lights and servers, aren't you?
I haven't done on-prem for 12 years because we used to run our own hosting in CRM 4 days.
Yeah, I remember that.
So we did hosting before. So we actually ran a hosting platform. We did customers on it, and then we just moved it all on CRM Online. So I hadn't actually, I think since early 2009, 2010, I'd not done a proper on-premise system. And I refuse to work on them. It's
much easier to work in the cloud.
Yeah, well, why should I go back and do anything? There's too much work otherwise. Why should I want to work with somebody who doesn't care about doing things with the latest stuff?
That's very true. As a technology person, we like using the latest tech.
Yeah, and we get a choice. So that's one of the nice things about Dataverse Power Platform Dynamics is there's so much options out there. We can choose what we do.
That is true. That is true. But then it comes down to it depends and what's the right tool for the job.
Mm-hmm.
I had a good joke recently, which is you get two solution architects looking at a project, and between them, they come up with 3 different solution architectures, and they can't agree which one to use.
Oh, yeah. I always think solution architecture is very subjective and it will change. What's best practice this month is not going to be best practice in 3 months' time because the product's going to change and it's going to evolve. And your thinking will evolve. We're seeing this now we're still struggling with managed solutions versus unmanaged. And
you had to bring that up.
Single solutions or layered solutions or segmenting them because there's still so many issues.
I have to say, I've covered with my guests on this series many different topics, some tech, some non-tech. I've generally managed to stay away from the managed versus unmanaged.
Well, I just say it's something that's changing. It's a good example of something that's still not quite there. My views have changed over the last few years and they still are changing. Yeah. Because the product is changing. And I think the worst you can ever do as a solution architect is be very fixed and rigid. Say this is what we did last time, this and it worked, we're going to do it this way. Because there's always going to be some better way of doing it. My view is
I'll remind myself not to introduce you to some people that I know.
I do have quite strong opinions on certain things about how you should do certain things.
I may have noticed over the years.
It's just personally, I just think you should always try and use the product as capabilities and not do code unless you really need to. But if you do go to do code, do it properly. Don't try and half do it.
Indeed.
And then if you are going to go to code, let's go the whole hog and let's use Azure and do it properly and scalably with proper monitoring rather than do some little plunge thing.
Indeed. Very, very important, obviously, to do it in the right way.
Yeah.
Well, Julian, really appreciate your time in coming on the show. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Time's over so quickly. It's like we're going to. I've got loads more stories if you. But
wow, I have to save that for another episode.
So.
Viewers, we hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Feel free to check out the rest of the episodes of the Oops Factor on the channel. Subscribe to the channel. Take a look at the blog. And if you would like to come on the show and share your own Oops Factor story, hit the link somewhere in the description below. Put in your details, and I'd love to have you on the show. But above all, have an amazing day.